my friend. There are moments in life when heaven leans close, moments when the whisper of the Spirit becomes louder than the noise of the world. And right now, there is a message stirring in the unseen realm, a message meant for your heart. Angels are moving, aligning, correcting, awakening, and preparing something you have prayed for. You may have felt a tug in your spirit, a heaviness in your chest, or a sudden wave of compassion that kept you awake, because someone connected to your destiny has been restless through the night. They tossed, they turned, they thought of you, and heaven said, "Speak this to the one who is waiting." There are moments in life when the unseen realm becomes more active than the world you can see. And Keynote 1 reveals one of those sacred moments. When heaven says that your soulmate tossed and turned all night, is not describing ordinary restlessness or simple emotional discomfort, is describing a spiritual disturbance, an inner battle between the truth their soul knows and the fears their mind has been clinging to. In the quiet hours when distractions fall away and the noise of the world fades, the heart is finally exposed. And in that exposed place, angels witnessed something profound, a spirit awakening, a heart wrestling, a mind replaying moments connected to you that they can no longer ignore. They were not just thinking about you, they were encountering conviction sent from above. As they lay in the dark, every thought they tried to suppress rose back up stronger. They remembered your kindness, your patience, your strength, and the way your presence brought peace even when things felt uncertain. These memories didn't haunt them, they humbled them. The angels observed the tension inside them, how they tried to push those thoughts away, afraid of what they meant, afraid of what they would have to confront if they admitted the truth. Yet the more they resisted, the louder the truth became. Heaven often speaks most clearly in silence, and last night, God allowed their heart to hear what their pride never wanted to face. Inner turmoil wasn't punishment, it was awakening. Restlessness is one of God's oldest tools to get a person's attention. When someone refuses to listen during the day, heaven visits them in the night. The toss and turn of their body reflected the wrestling of their spirit. Angels were present not just as observers, but as messengers, stirring conviction, comforting them, guiding their emotions toward realization. They saw the confusion in your soulmate's eyes, even though no one else could. They heard the quiet sighs, the deep breaths, the whispered prayers they didn't even realize they were praying. They witnessed the shift in the atmosphere around them, the softness entering a heart that had once been guarded by fear, ego, or past pain. Through the night, their spirit replayed the moments where they could have spoken but stayed silent, where they could have chosen honesty but hid behind excuses, where they could have stepped closer to you but walked away instead. This reflection didn't come from regret alone, came from divine revelation. Heaven was showing them who you truly are and what you truly mean to their destiny. Angels gently opened their understanding, causing them to feel the weight of losing something precious if they don't change course. This wasn't the type of realization a person reaches on their own. It was orchestrated, purposeful, and timed perfectly. While they wrestled between longing and fear, heaven leaned in closer. What kept them awake wasn't anxiety alone. It was alignment beginning, a shift in direction, a divine pull toward the one who has been part of their future long before they recognized it. Their restlessness signaled the breaking of old patterns, the softening of stubbornness, and the awakening of courage. It revealed that God is dealing with the places they once refused to confront. Every turn in the night was heaven adjusting their heart. Every sigh was a step toward surrender. Every anxious thought was a sign of transformation beginning from within. You may not have seen any of this, but your spirit may have felt it. Sometimes the connection between two people is so spiritually deep that one feels the movement in the other's soul. That heaviness you felt, that sudden emotional weight, that urge to pray or reflect, these were echoes of their internal struggle. The angels witnessed the invisible thread between you tugging gently yet powerfully. Soulmate didn't rest because heaven wouldn't let them rest while they remained in denial. Love that is ordained by God refuses to sleep when truth is calling it awake. This restless night was a sign, a signal that heaven has begun working in a way you may have waited for, cried for, or doubted would ever happen. It means they are no longer comfortable running, no longer at peace avoiding what their spirit knows is real. Their sleeplessness is the first step in a spiritual awakening that will bring clarity, courage, and eventually action. Heaven saw, heaven initiated it, and heaven is using it to guide their heart back toward the path they were destined to walk. When heaven begins softening a heart, it is not sudden, rushed, or dramatic. It is gentle, intentional, and deeply spiritual. Keynote 2 speaks of a transformation taking place inside the one connected to your destiny, a change you cannot see with your eyes but can often feel in your spirit. The heart that once resisted this connection, the heart that hid behind excuses, fear, or pride, is now being touched by a divine hand. And what God softens, nothing on earth can harden again. This is not merely emotional vulnerability, it is a spiritual breakthrough unfolding quietly and powerfully within them. For a long time, your soulmate may have carried walls built from old wounds, disappointments, or past relationships that taught them to guard themselves too tightly. Those walls made them hesitant, distant, and afraid to fully step into something real, especially something as deep and spiritually significant as their connection to you. They may have convinced themselves that ignoring their feelings was easier than confronting them, or that delaying communication was safer than risking the pain of honesty. But heaven has begun working on the very places they tried to hide from. Their heart is becoming tender, their guard is loosening, and the truth is beginning to rise to the surface. God doesn't soften a heart by force, does it by reminding a person who they truly are beneath their fear. He touches their conscience, revives compassion they thought was gone, and brings clarity to the confusion they once used as a shield. Suddenly, the excuses that once felt justified begin to feel empty. The pride that kept them distant starts to feel heavy. The silence they once relied on starts to feel loud. Their spirit becomes unsettled not because something is wrong, but because something is waking up. Heaven is preparing them to see you and themselves with new eyes. This inner shift often begins in moments of stillness when the noise of daily life can no longer distract them. In those quiet moments, memories of you return with a different weight. The way you spoke, the patience you offered, the forgiveness you showed, the purity of your intentions, all of it begins to stand out. The angels highlight these moments not to make them feel guilty, but to spark realization. They begin to understand that what they turned away from was not a burden, but a blessing. What they feared was not loss of freedom, but the beginning of something meaningful. What they hesitated to embrace was actually a gift molded specifically for their growth and healing. As their heart softens, something else happens. They begin to feel the consequences of their distance. Not in a harsh or punishing way, but in a sobering, awakening way. They start to miss what they once took for granted. They start to feel the absence of your presence, your voice, your energy, your support. There is a new awareness rising within them, a realization that life without you lacks a certain warmth, a certain direction, a certain peace that only you brought. This is not a sentimental longing, it is spiritual recognition. Heaven is aligning their understanding with what their soul always knew. Transformation of this kind often comes with humility. A softened heart begins to revisit past decisions with honesty. They see where fear controlled them, where silence hurt you, where distance created confusion. But instead of feeling crushed by this awareness, they feel called to change. The angels do not show them their mistakes to shame them, but to guide them into growth. They begin to desire healing, not avoidance. They begin to crave truth, not excuses. They begin to feel courage rising where fear once ruled. Softened heart becomes more open to communication, more willing to express what was once buried, and more ready to take steps they were once afraid to consider. They start wanting to make things right, wanting to show up, wanting to choose connection over caution. And even if they haven't expressed these changes yet, the shift has already begun. You may sense it in your spirit, feel it in sudden waves of peace, or notice it in your dreams or intuition. Are signs that heaven is working on both sides of the connection. A heart softened by God is a heart prepared for destiny. And this softness is not temporary. It is a sign that their inner battle is ending and their clarity is beginning. The transformation happening within them is purposeful, leading them toward communication, reconciliation, healing, and divine alignment. Heaven is shaping them into the version of themselves that is capable of loving you fully, honestly, and courageously. When a connection is spiritually ordained, it carries a weight far deeper than emotions, attraction, or circumstance. Becomes something woven into the fabric of your purpose, something heaven recognizes even when the two people involved are slow to understand it. Keynote 3 reveals this truth. What you share with this person is not accidental. It is not random. It is not the result of fleeting feelings or temporary fascination. It is a connection rooted in destiny, crafted long before either of you had the language to describe it. And because of that, no distance, silence, fear, or confusion can destroy what heaven has already stamped as significant. There are relationships formed from convenience, timing, or comfort. And then there are those formed by divine design. These are connections that pull at the soul, awaken dormant parts of the heart, and challenge a person to grow into who they are meant to be. Your connection with this soulmate is one of those. It carries a spiritual familiarity, a sense of recognition that goes beyond explanation. From the very beginning, something in you knew there was meaning in their presence, even if everything on the surface appeared ordinary. This knowing isn't imagination, it is spiritual memory. It is the soul identifying something heaven approved. People often misunderstand spiritually ordained connections because they expect them to be smooth, effortless, or free of struggle.